America. Welcome to Furthermore with Amanda Head, our Small Business Saturday series, which is a video series, as you can see if you are watching the video version, because you're watching the video version. Very excited that you are here with me and excited to talk about a project that is going to be completed very, very soon and will be on display in Washington, D.C. very soon. And you're going to find out all about that with my guest today. He is Dustin Stockton. And he played a major role in the creation of this two-story bronze statue of President Trump. And it is incredible. It was created and manifested by a world-renowned artist named Alan Cottrell in Ohio. And you're just going to love hearing all about this. So stay tuned, and we'll be back on the other side with Dustin Stockton. Welcome back, everybody. I am thrilled to bring in my next guest because President Trump is going to be inaugurated in very short time. I can't believe that we are here. It feels like the primary process just started a few months ago, and lo and behold, President Trump won in a modern day landslide and now will retake the Oval Office as our nation's 47th president. Hallelujah, a return to sanity, a return to a good economy, a secure homeland, good foreign policy, just abundance across the board. I am looking very forward to an amazing 2025. And this project that I want to talk about today is something that I think President Trump is going to love, and the people of America are really going to enjoy seeing and learning about. And it is a two-story high statue of President Trump, that iconic and terrifying day in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, a statue commemorating that. And on with me today is the guy who helped lead that project, Dustin Stockton. Thank you so much for being here, Dustin.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Great to see you. Could not be more excited for what is coming. Man, we did it.
I know.
Managed to survive, and now it's time to look forward to a bright future.
Absolutely. To look forward and also to get down to work, because there is a lot to do to undo the last 4 years. President Trump, obviously, in his first term, was barreling down the road and trying to get as much of his campaign promises accomplished. Obviously, it was a very different atmosphere in Washington that time around. President Trump was battling a larger faction of swamp dwellers, of Republicans in name only. And this time around, I think even for the rhinos, they realized that this president, this time around, he obviously has the popular mandate. He has a majority in both the House and the Senate. And let's face it, public sentiment is just on his side. And you can call that a policy situation. It is probably, I think, for a lot of people, when President Trump got shot in the head in July, for them, I think it was an awakening moment where people realized that President Trump wasn't necessarily, it wasn't Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus liberal. It was the American people versus the congealed, gross, infested swamp. It was us against them. It was the little man versus the government. And I feel like that's ultimately that kind of is embodied in this statue. But I want to rewind, Dustin. You have a really fun story starting back in the Tea Party movement. Tell us about your background.
So I got my start in the Tea Party movement. I was probably one of the 3 or 4 most prominent people in the movement. I helped build some of the large organizations. Specifically with social media. I put together the Unity rally at the convention in 2012. And then I went on, I was Newt Gingrich's chief copywriter when he ran for president. And then I went to work for Steve Bannon in like 2013 or 2014, and kept that all the way through to when he was the chief executive of the Trump campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the co-founders of We Build the Wall, where we built Trump's prototype wall with $25 million on GoFundMe. But that also led to, 2 months before the 2020 election, being raided by the United States Postal Service. And it was being debanked, and did the only rational thing, which is when they stole the 2020 election, helped lead the March for Trump and the Stop the Steal rallies. As the lead organizer of all 3 of the large DC rallies in November and December, and then of course January, which everybody knows is January 6th.
Right.
So it's been a rough 4 years, being both debanked for my like what I did in the wall. I've never been charged with a crime, never did anything. And I had to turn to crypto in order to be able to like pay my bills and provide for my
Gracious.
family. And that to me really just emphasized the power that there's no due process involved. You have no when you put on the what's called the politically exposed persons list.
Mm-hmm.
You have no there's no court you can go to. There's no phone number you can call. And the fact that they can do it to people without charges and without any due process really led me to like diving down this rabbit hole of like how do you be politically outspoken in current day with all of the dangers and threats that come from not just governments, but these like large institutional powers that want to protect their power. And so I really I just went all in on cryptocurrency. And I realized pretty early on that there was going to be a opportunity to bring Trump to crypto and to bring crypto to Trump. And so I set out to do that. I started in the crypto world. They call me the godfather of Politify because I helped launch a whole category of tokens that was devoted around promoting President Trump in the digital space. And that's kind of how I ended up with the statue, which is when they tried to assassinate President Trump and he gets shot, when he goes down, I'll never forget. I mean, we don't know if he's hit. We don't know what's going on. It is one of my blood pressure went up and stayed there for weeks. I was just so irate. But when he gets up and he raises his fist in the air and he says, fight, fight, fight. To me, it was more than just like the closing of the door of like, you got to right. Forget for a moment how courageous that moment is. Like as an act of just pure courage,
Yes.
believable. But to me, it was him like finally and just like standing up and turning the page against the lawfare, against the media smears, against the attempts to bankrupt him and imprison him and his supporters and all of us. To me, it was just such a powerful and iconic moment. And we needed to commemorate it,
Yeah.
right? Like those are the kind of things that we used to commemorate and look back on so that people wouldn't forget. And if there's a moment I don't want to forget, it's that moment because I think it's just the ultimate moment of leadership.
Absolutely. And what you just said it kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier, because I think for that moment when President Trump rose up above his Secret Service detail, his immediate detail who were surrounding him, if you are a protectee and you know that you are in danger all the time, but especially in this moment where you have heard shots fired, and you have been hit by one, the split second decision to raise your head above the people who are supposed to have your head covered, that shows courage and honestly a maniacal patriotism that I don't think any of us can imagine having. But again, it's that whole people versus the government thing, because there were so many independents who at that time, maybe they were waffling back and forth. I don't know how, but maybe they were somewhere down the middle because they believed a lot of what Kamala Harris was saying, or Joe, I guess at that point technically it was Joe Biden. But I think for a lot of folks that just really solidified, hey, this guy took a bullet for this country. He's still running, he's still sticking his head out literally for the American people. And, I don't know if that was what nudged him over the edge. I think that there were probably a lot of things, but okay, I want to stay on task because this statue is spectacular. I saw some pictures and we're gonna put them up for our audience to see in just a moment, but we do have to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. We are back with Dustin Stockton, who helped lead the project, this two-story bronze statue of President Trump that has been created by someone who has done a lot of this type of work. Dustin, first off, how did you get involved with this project? How did you get tasked as the guy to lead this up?
Well, it was really kind of a blessing. So, because I've been involved in all of these different political projects, and right in the crypto world, I was kind of known as the Trump guy, and in Trump world, I was kind of known as the crypto guy.
Nice.
And the group came together to commission this statue, and a bunch of the crypto guys wanted to honor President Trump. And so uh, I found out maybe a month after they had commissioned the statue, and they sent me around to a bunch of the Trump rallies, and I embedded with RFK Jr. In the lead up. So I spent a lot of time with the Silicon Valley tech guys and the crypto bros, if you will. And for us, the statue was an opportunity because at that point, Donald Trump had fully embraced crypto.
Yeah.
And so the Biden administration had waged war against our industry for his entire administration. And at this point, Donald Trump had already talked about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He'd already talked about Bitcoin mining and
Mhm.
incentivizing the energy production and usage that comes along with that. And he had spoke at Bitcoin Nashville. And so for me, when I saw the statue, it was so perfect. I mean, it's 2 stories tall. It's made of bronze. It's the modern day Colossus of Rhodes in just the scope and the magnitude. And for me, it just touched all of the right points, which is if you're going to do this, you had to go big with it. You
Yeah.
could do some like life-size statue. If you were going to honor that moment and that man who was larger than life, the statue had to be larger than life, and it was. And so I went around to a bunch of the Trump rallies with just some of the like early conceptual pictures and was showing it to the crowds and talking to people about it. And the level of excitement and enthusiasm, I mean, everybody was just so fired up for it. And
Yeah.
so we started really steamrolling, making progress towards it. The goal was to have it ready for the inauguration, and I'm happy to report it'll be ready to go, and it will be in DC as part of the inauguration festivities.
I love that. And you know what's amazing about this? Because a lot of times when well, first of all, let me rewind. So excuse me, Alan Cottrell, is the guy who has created this. He's done, I think I read somewhere that he's done 400 of these type statues, but this one was obviously, I mean, it was his most daunting project. But oftentimes you see these statues of people, and my husband and I were at the Reagan Library recently, and you see these bronze statues of people, and they either look nothing like the person or they're kind of creepy. From what I have seen from the pictures, this guy rendered a striking statue, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, so this is not the Dwayne Wade statue in Miami that just was like terrible, right? Like just
Or the Kobe Bryant one here in
what
LA that
is
they
this
unveiled
thing?
last year. Yeah,
Uh,
ridiculous.
and we wanted to go with Alan. So Alan's a world-renowned artist with these kinds of statues and sculptures. He did the Thomas Edison statue that's in Statutory Hall in the Capitol.
Yep.
Uh, he did a amazing Teddy Roosevelt. But this is almost twice as large as any statue he'd previously done. And so it was a large lift for him to be able to do it. And what's funny is that we wanted to portray Trump in the best possible light, right? So like
Yeah.
we made him a little younger. We may have taken a few pounds off, but like in my head, the the vision of it and how the statue looks is how like Trump is in my head. I
Yeah.
mean, he,
Yeah.
he has been such a warrior and a powerhouse for all of us. And it's important for us when we commemorate our history to like imply those things. And
Yeah.
so it's I think the statue, people who love Trump are going to love it, and the people who hate Trump are going to have their heads explode. I can't wait to park this thing outside of MSNBC or outside of CNN. So what we're doing with the statue is pretty amazing. So we're gonna unveil it at the inauguration and
In DC.
in DC.
Love it. Where in DC? Is it going to be near the
Um,
site?
yes. So
Awesome.
I think I'm not supposed to say
Okay, that's
for
fair.
security reasons, but I know that President Trump is very excited about the statue, and I have a feeling we'll have the opportunity to show it to him in DC. And
That's
then
going to be an incredible photo op. President Trump with President Trump. The
yeah, no,
two-story life-size or bigger than life-size bronze version.
and so we're gonna do that, but then the plan is to tour it around the country for the next couple of years. So
Okay.
we have it, so because it's him with the fist in the air, we actually have it mounted on a trailer so that he's like in the Superman position, like as we drive it around.
Right.
We have like a big cape for him, and we have some pit vipers. So like you'll see him flying down the freeway, like in cities
Amazing.
all over the country. And then, but we're going to like the cool thing about the statue and with my background in organizing, it's an opportunity for us to shine a giant spotlight on all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
charities, like we've talked to Tunnels to Towers and the Sinise Foundation about like bringing it to their fundraising events or other ways we can highlight. I've pledged to bring it to anywhere that we're holding, like Elon Musk is going to go after any of the rhinos who pose the Trump agenda.
Hmm.
We will bring the statue to those districts and we will use this as an opportunity to introduce, highlight, and support the challengers like in those individual primaries. And so the statue is a chance for us to bring people together, to celebrate the victory, and to remember all that we've been through in
Yeah.
order to get here so that we seize this opportunity. You said it. I've spent years praying for an opportunity to do something about the creeping tyranny and authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And I believe when Trump won and the bullet missed him by centimeters, we got that opportunity, and it's up to us to seize it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now a quick question because we know President Trump's aesthetic style. Have you prepared for the possibility that he's going to want to gold plate it?
Yeah, so uh, I think he's gonna love the bronze.
I
Like,
think he will too. I'm
like,
totally just joking because of the gold toilet thing.
but so it's funny because right, one of the first things I asked was like, why didn't we go with gold? Apparently, gold is a much softer metal and doesn't last nearly as long, whereas these bronze statues last literally forever. And
Yes.
we're we're excited. I've been in discussions with the local governments, the city and state in Butler, Pennsylvania, about potentially placing it at or near the site. We also, though, we would not be surprised if it ends up at somewhere like Mar-a-Lago, or the Trump Presidential Library would be another place that we'd love to see it as like a permanent home.
That's what I was thinking because I don't know where the place for the Trump Presidential Library will be, but I could certainly see that. I mean, in DC at Reagan International, which is right across the Potomac from Foggy Bottom, they've got a huge statue of Reagan. It's not as big as this one. I think it's, I don't know, maybe 10 feet tall or something like that. It's probably bronze because it seems to have been there for a long time and has held up quite well. So that's so exciting though. So when you say that you're going to take it on tour pretty much anywhere, any chance that you will be out here on the West Coast at all? Because I have a lot of West Coast listeners who I know would love to see it.
Oh, absolutely. So, what I'm excited about is right, like we're gonna do the inauguration, and we have several other like events to tour it around, and we want to bring it to the most iconic places in the country. So, as an example, I think we're going. Oh, I think it's done, but Mount Rushmore on Fourth
Oh,
of
amazing.
July. Right. We really will use it to troll places like CNN headquarters and outside, like where NBC, where the cast
Listen, CNN is at about Sunset and Cahuenga in Hollywood, and I would love it if you took it there.
at 100%. And so we will, like most of the tours, like we will definitely go up and down California and Las Vegas and Reno and
Awesome.
Arizona and just about everywhere else that we can bring it because we've all been through so much. I think, right, like the end result of President Trump's like decision to run has been that the absolute exposure of the media
Yeah.
and the Democrat machine and the Republican establishment, like all of these one by one have been revealed to be as corrupt and awful as they actually are.
Yeah.
And we managed to survive all of that. It's a period of transition, but it's also a period of victory. And so, like coming out and celebrating victory together all over the country, I can't wait. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
even bring it to Greenland. I don't know.
Yeah, Greenland and maybe the future United States Canal. And I just heard recently that they are looking to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which I think is fantastic. Except that I'm so used to saying that when I gr was growing up, our summers were spent in Destin and Panama City and places like that, which are on the Gulf of Mexico. So it's going to take a little bit of language learning for that muscle memory to adjust. I want to focus in on something else before we leave because I'm not a great or sophisticated purveyor of art, but even I can recognize when the likeness of something so closely matches its original intent. Talk to us about Alan's process of creating this statue, because it's one thing to create a life-size statue of the person where the proportions are one to one. It's quite another thing when you're making it 2 times larger and you have to account for that.
Yeah, so the process was actually pretty amazing, and we documented all of it. We had a great video crew, documentary crew, and we'll be sharing that as we go. But essentially, what he did is first he built like a nearly life-size model, like slightly larger, out of clay, like so that he could like build it and like get it to where everybody was happy with it,
Hmm.
and he could use the clay as like the medium for him to like really get it dialed in, and then used that to 3D scan in order to create the individual segments that they bronzed and then welded together for the gigantic statue. So the process and the like even it's funny because I wasn't aware of this before, but the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the interesting things about it is that it had this interior structure in order to support something so large. And so the interior of the statue is all of this steel reinforcement along the like bronze on the outside. This thing is super durable and well engineered. The base alone for it is nearly 5 tons, 4 or 5 tons.
Holy
And
smokes.
and that's just the temporary base that like I'm driving around the country. The
Yes.
permanent base, we've ordered a granite base that is I want to say it's 15 or 20 tons.
Gracious.
And even on the base, for example, we'll be doing things like we've been in touch with Compentor, the widow of Corey, who
Mm, yeah.
died that day in Butler, and so we'll make sure that we're honoring him. There on the base with a permanent plaque and some other art that's coming
Oh,
in. Um, so it's the process of building this thing. It's kind of cool when you dive into it to watch Alan like do his work and like work his magic, and then to incorporate the 3D scans, and then to see it at one point it was just like right after they had bronzed it, it was just like all these bronze pieces laying on the floor of the studio,
yeah.
and then watching them then have to like weld all the pieces together, and then to see it when it came out, like just how lifelike and realistic, and very strong, very strong.
Very, very true.
Looks it was incredible to see. And so I think from a pure artistic perspective, like being able to put together a statue this large. Now, whether or not the fancy art community, they seem to prefer like, I don't know, taping
Hunter Biden art.
yeah, or
Yeah.
taping a banana to a wall or something.
Yeah.
To me, this is the kind of like real art that I hope we get back to. And I think President Trump So President, there was a great write-up done on the statue in Breitbart that the president shared out on his True Social. And then several days later, and recently, he's been talking about like doing monuments to our great heroes and heroines. And I would love to see us as a nation and as a world get back to like creating art that actually like causes you to reflect and remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And invoking that day in our country's history that will be written about and talked about and politicized, frankly, for centuries to come. And I think that it was a great turning point, and I mean great, not in a positive way, but to a great degree. I think it's something that changed the course of this election, and it deserves to be commemorated. And I love that you are including a piece to memorialize Corey Compertori. I think that that's just a really, really beautiful thing, and kudos to you. And I cannot wait to see this statue in person. It's going to be the most beautiful statue. There will never be a more beautiful statue. It's the best. It's the best. So I'm thrilled for you all. This is incredible. Where can people find out more about this project? Where can people find you on social media? All of that.
Yeah, so I mostly use X, and obviously like I'm constantly updating everybody on the project. The X account, you can find it linked on my page at Dustin Stockton. It's just my first and last name.
Awesome.
And come see the statue in a city near you in the coming year. It's
Beautiful.
going to be amazing.
Are you guys going to do anything like, because I mean, I know a bunch of people want to come to the inauguration, but it can be cost prohibitive, it can be life prohibitive, just because everybody has so much going on. So for people who aren't able to actually go to DC, are you going to do something like a live stream or anything like that?
Yeah, so on January 18th, we rented out the National Press Club,
Nice.
and we have like 18-inch statues. So they're not really very miniature. They weigh 30 pounds each,
Woo.
and they're made of bronze. Alan did a series of them, and we'll be giving those out as awards to a bunch of the people who have sacrificed
Mm.
be able to get that done. That'll all be live streamed. We have a great documentary crew who will be with us to put out like all of the highlights and the statues. And then, of course, we're really hoping for that iconic moment of President Trump with the Patriot statue
I
in
have
the
a feeling you're going
yesterday.
to get it. I have a
Mwah.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's gonna be amazing. But and then again, like very shortly after, we plan to bring it down to Florida, and right, you'll see it in, I don't know, somewhere near West Palm Beach. It would be my guess, like right out of the gate, and then touring all over the country where we want to do barbecues and have celebrations with everybody because like this is our chance, and a lot of people had to give up a lot for us to get
Mm.
here, and this is a great way for us to come together and have a party.
I love it. I can't wait for liberals across this country to be trolled. I just picture people in LA driving down the streets and then seeing this Trump head and fist above the trees as they are driving on the freeway or something, and seeing that and them just having a panic attack on the 405 because hey, it's Los Angeles and they're crazy. I cannot wait to now I don't want them to have a panic attack and crash. I just want them to, experience the emotional turmoil that they do every time they freak out about something that's logical and good for our country. Dustin Stockton, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to see this come to life in Washington, D.C. and follow all the travels of this statue as it traverses the country. Everybody go find him on X at Dustin Stockton. Dustin, thanks so much for being here. We'll have you back on again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back on the other side. All right, everybody, I just want to wrap up with a little bit of a Hollywood topic. And the premise of the story is not great and kind of depressing, also pretty indicative of Hollywood, but the follow-up to the initial premise of this conversation is definitely a good thing, and you'll find out what I'm trying to say in a moment. Now, last weekend, wasn't that last weekend? The Golden Globes took place, and a comedian, Nikki Glazer, was the host, and just to rewind, she's a stand-up comedian. I didn't know that much about her. She kind of burst onto the scene when she took part in the roast of Tom Brady and had some really scandalous jokes, but nonetheless funny. And so when she accepted the gig to host the Golden Globes, she said, I absolutely realized that this is because of my roast of Tom Brady. At the same time, I'm not going to be Ricky Gervais. So I immediately thought to myself, okay, well, which is it? Are you going to be incendiary and scandalous, or are you not? I loved Ricky Gervais's hosting of the Golden Globes. I think that he made every single one of the celebrities in that audience butt sweat, and it made me very, very happy to know that they were squirming in their seats and sweating all over. And I think that she accomplished that to some degree last weekend. So anyway, one of the jokes that she made, and this is what I'm talking about, the premise of my argument or the premise of this conversation being not the best, but also expected. So she made a joke about the shout outs that people received during the acceptance speeches. So she says, so much has already happened in the first half, and the acceptance speeches have been on fire. Who got shouted out the most? Let's look at the numbers. So a screen goes up on or it goes up on a screen at the venue, and she says, all right, cast and crew are leading the way with 11 mentions. Moms are holding strong with 3 shout outs. Really, guys? 3? That's ugh. God, creator of the universe, with 0 mentions. And then she goes on to say, Mario Lopez, host of Access Hollywood 1. She said, no surprises in this godless town. So, like I said, not totally surprising. However, Jamie Foxx then gave an interview with Extra, and he talked about this exact thing. And he said when it happened, he was talking about this dire medical situation he had. He had a stroke. He was in a weeks-long coma. You guys probably remember this back in 2023. He had a brain bleed and was knocking on death's door for an extended period of time. So he's talking about that, and he says, when it happened, I said, if I am able to get past this, and God spoke to me in a way, when you're in Hollywood, God sometimes slips away. But when I spoke to him, he says, I need you to sit here for a second, but when you get back out there, I ain't telling you to be an angel, but you have a different thing. So he goes on to say, he said he has no bad days anymore, and he no longer takes life for granted. He said, you take a picture on your cell phone and you hit that filter and it brightens up. That's the way my life looks now. And he said, when you dream about what you want to be, you only dream about the good things, the career, the house. You never dream tragedy. When tragedy happens in a real way, you need solid family and friends. So the 2 ladies that are with me tonight, Corinne Marie Fox, my daughter, and Annalise Estelle Fox, held me down in a way that is hard to interpret in these settings. He compared the care his daughters took of him to how Michael Corleone stood up to his own father after being shot in the classic film The Godfather. He says, you have to show up and really take over everything. And she did that, and that's why I'm here. He goes on to say, Hollywood doesn't only need you to blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is interesting. This was something else that I wanted to bring up. Actually, that's not really important to the conversation, but it is a chance for me to shout out one of my favorite shows. He was talking about watching about just content in Hollywood and whether it's interesting or uninteresting. And he was talking about a series that came out a few years ago that I personally loved, called The Offer. And it's about the making of The Godfather, and it's based on true events. And I encourage you all to go out and look it up because I found it to be quite witty and entertaining. But anyway, he says, right now I'm watching The Offer, the 2022 limited series about the making of The Godfather. It's a good show, addicting and interesting, but it's not really about anything other than overcoming obstacles to get a movie made. There's something hollow about it, something missing. It's all plot, 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 which is fine to a point. It's no Sopranos, which was all about the soul. I I agree that the film is about the obstacles of getting a film made, but I think that it is universal in overcoming obstacles in life. If there is something that you feel is important to the world and something that, in the film industry is great storytelling and you want it to have a platform, I actually find The Offer to be a really incredible series. I mean, I think the writing is wonderful. The Matthew Good is in it, and Juno Temple, and who else? Who's that guy that looks like he's like maybe his mom and dad are related by like 5%. Anyway, that's gonna drive me crazy. Pause for programming. I'm gonna look this up. IMDb. Why won't my phone scroll? There it is. Miles Teller. But anyway, it's a really, really great series. I am actually rewatching it for the second time because I thought it was that good. Matthew Good is hilarious in it. So anyway, I don't know how I ended up at The Offer, but other than just giving a shout out to The Offer and telling everybody you should go watch it. I think it's on Paramount Plus. I'm not trying to give any type of support for Paramount Plus, but yeah, it's a great series. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a great rest of your weekend. We will be back on Monday with an audio episode, as we are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then another Small Business Saturday episode coming out next weekend. Everybody have a great day. See you soon.